Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. So we are starting out with the next set of important topics. So Gukesh, the Indian chess prodigy, teaches us resilience, focus, and the value of continuous learning. And his meteoric rise, it is emphasizing the importance of again discipline, creative thinking, and adaptability in facing the challenges or under the pressure situation. So it showcases us again. Uh, it's an inspiration, embracing failures as stepping stones and staying relentless in pursuit of excellence, regardless of your age and experience. Why China makes cars cheaper than others? So it is simply stating the benefit of economies of scale and the specialization, like in terms of manufacturing batteries or again the body chassis, the vehicles, electronics. So it is the economies of scale and the specialization that has again driven actually the economic growth of China also. So it is again the manufacturing, the industrial sector. So because of this, China has the monopoly power also, which is again misused by it also. So yesterday itself we were talking about this thing that it should be again taken up by Supreme Court. So the Places of Worship Act 1991, and we were seeing yesterday the flood of petitions that are incoming that are being filed in again the lower judiciary has been now frozen by the Supreme Court till until further orders. So we'll take this up in detail later on. Now, in case of one of the areas of issues between India and Sri Lanka, fishermen again is the thing. So safety of fishermen or not relying upon the sustainable and safe fishing activities. Like in case of India, the Sri Lanka states that the fishermen from the state of Tamil Nadu have been using the destructive method, which is known as the bottom trawling. So here, what happens is you're just swaying everything which is coming inside the net. So that is hampering again the safety of the aquatic ecosystem also. So India underscores balanced approach, our commitment to diplomacy and sustainable solutions through different means and mediums like maritime border agreements, which has been signed between India and Sri Lanka during 1974 and 1976, which defined the boundaries. Yet we still see disputes regarding the same, especially in the Palk Strait region or the Palk Bay region. Then we have livelihood support. So again, because the fishermen, their livelihood is heavily reliant on the marine sources. So we seek sustainable fishing practices while advocating for their rights. So again, as we say, the IUU fishing methodology is not something which India vouches for. Then diplomatic engagement, joint working groups have been formed, bilateral talks have been taken up to address the concerns and reduce the tensions, and modernization initiatives like the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana has been introduced to modernize fishing and promote deep sea fishing, but in a sustainable manner. So it is linked with the growth of blue economy also. And some recent developments, like we regularly seek the release of arrested Indian fishermen, and even like in 2023 also around 100 Tamil Nadu fishermen, they were detained in Sri Lanka and then later on they were repatriated. And regarding this, before we have dealt with the Kachativu Island dispute also between India and Sri Lanka. So the map also becomes important. Now, what is disease X and why we should know about it? So, disease X is not kind of a particular disease, it is regarding again a hypothetical disease. It is related to the trend of an unpredictable disease that might emerge. So, just talking about the World Health Organization is talking about being prepared to deal with such types of unforeseen situations, like in case of COVID-19 we saw. And this was again, it came to it was highlighted after the West African Ebola epidemic of 2014. So several diseases are under it, and again, regarding the same, even Niti Aayog proposed a report that how we should go forward with dealing with the future pandemics. We should have a proper, like, vaccine bank should be there. There should be proper forecasting and again data analytics into the trends, it maintaining data security also, so that can be taken forward. And then again, skilling and training of the frontline healthcare workers like the PM, the ASHA and the Anganwadi workers is also important apart from the basic necessities. So there are different challenges also in predicting the disease X, like the pathogens, they keep mutating. So how to detect that? Then there are laboratory mishaps also, that deliberate biological attacks may be done. So that cannot be ruled out. And then there's sheer number of potential pathogens that also adds to the complexity of forecasting. So here we can rely upon genome sequencing and artificial intelligence. And we have regarding the same again the coalition for the epidemic preparedness innovation, so even global collaboration agreement is needed regarding the same, and robust surveillance systems, real time data is needed. So several measures has been taken up by India apart from the recent one that we've discussed. One is again the digital health IDs also. We will be having again seamless operations of the healthcare ecosystem with one single ID. And again, in terms of pandemic treaty, also WHO ongoing efforts in this same direction needs to be prioritized at the global level. And again, we have certain frameworks like Nagoya Protocol, which ensures equitable sharing of benefits from the genetic resources. So it can be further, its scope can be further expanded to areas like biological materials, including pathogens. So in a way, we need global collaboration. We need to realign different efforts and schemes which are being proposed or which are already functioning in a unilinear direction as far as again preparing for the future pandemics is concerned. So, be it research and development, be it equitable sharing of the benefits, be it again more research and development in this regard, or even in this context, we can talk about the availability of the medicine. So, role of again India's generic pharmaceutical industry would also be playing important role. So IPR also somewhere might become a challenge in future. So we need clarity over all these areas. Now, tackling the challenge of seasonal illnesses. In this, again, this is a model coming from the state of Tamil Nadu, and how state public health laboratories has played important role in terms of uh, like screening and the data availability, and then going ahead with studying the trend of the changing disease pattern in order to become more clearer with the approach to be taken up, because it is also linked with the antimicrobial resistance. So fever surveillance camps have been organized at the regional and the grassroots level. Now, sweetened drinks increases the risk of cardiovascular diseases, not just this, but other non-communicable diseases like obesity and diabetes also, like we see fizzy drinks. So regulation of the food processing industry is very important. The global players, like we have different global players, we have Pepsi and cola drinks, which are easily available and which are again being promoted through the advertisements at the same time. So the ethical angle remains certain. We can say it is weaker or not so emphasized. And apart from this, what is like how does these drinks behaves when we consume them is like they feel make you feel less full, potentially leading to overconsumption. So in terms of again the we say that we need to consume less of carbohydrates, so they are needed in again a certain amount. We can't completely eliminate their consumption, so but their consumption in the form of sugars and refined carbs, it may be more harmful. And this might lead to more metabolic syndromes, also increased visceral fats deposition and accelerated atherosclerosis at the same time. So, adding up to the pressure of non communicable diseases burden. So, again, we'll discuss more in detail. Now, iconic Shikara click away. So, Uber Shikaras have been introduced. So, Shikaras are these, the boats that you see in Jammu and Kashmir, along the Dal Lake also. So, here we can say that the question which arises regarding the Uber Shikras that has been initiated recently is how we are going forward with the pricing mechanism, because in a way we have seen that Uber cabs or the pricing mechanism has certain element of monopoly, so ensuring that it is not hampering in a way the long term employment aspect. It will definitely make the system more formal, but ensuring that the the rights of the workers and somewhere social security, or in a way this is turning out to be a model of gig economy at the same time. So there are several elements which needs to be synchronized in this case also, ensuring again it will ensure the sustainable growth of tourism. It will promote sustainable and environmentally safe tourism. And another benefit out of this can be that it might enhance more of accessibility and uplift tourism at the same time in the region. So this has been introduced under the Smart City project near the Dal Lake region. Now, Beijing model against air pollution. What India can learn out of this is that it has emphasized upon public participation, the role of local government, the role of adoption of modern technology, sustainable measures, and again shift towards the renewable and the clean forms of energy, and also focusing upon circular economy. So a multi-dimensional approach we can say has helped China in curbing air pollution, particularly in the city of Beijing. And definitely in terms of people's participation, their change in attitude, like in terms of carpooling or using more of public transportation. So that's there. And in context of India, like we can talk about, firstly, finance is going to play an important role in terms of the shift that is needed in terms of the basic infrastructure that is required. Then vehicle scrappage policy and the FAME policy, the electric vehicles policy is going to play important role. So for this, we have cross subsidization. Like in case of China, they have the world's highest density of electric vehicles, which is to the tune of 4 lakhs. So in case of India also, we have the target of having 30% share by 2030, but again that seems to be too ambitious given the current trend. And also in terms of urbanization, or as we talk about planned urbanization, going forward we need to keep this thing also in mind, that the places of work and residence, they are also brought closer in order to reduce the emissions from the vehicles, and that will also somewhere increase the ease of living at the same time. Now we often talk like a lot about the panchayati raj institutions, but equally important is the role of urban local government and periodic elections. In this case, we see that again, they are also the units of decentralized local self governance, promoting bottom up approach, more people participation for again responsible delivering of the civic services at the first mile, ensuring quality life for the citizens. So we have the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, which was introduced in 1992, and Schedule 12 of the Constitution, mentioning the subjects to be taken up by the urban local bodies. So here we see the challenges in terms of like uh, the finance is one of the major challenge, because again the finance commission directly is not devolving funds to the urban local bodies or even the panchayati raj institutions. It goes via the state. Even the subjects of governance that would be taken up by the local bodies are decided by the state assemblies. So there we see in a way again state wants does not want to again go forward with more of decentralization of the powers. or would not want to give up its own powers. So here, like 4,800 urban local government bodies oversees nearly 40% of the population in India. And cities are again definitely the backbone of the country's economy because it is contributing 60% of India's GDP. Even we have certain reports from CAG, recently there was one in 2024. Elections were delayed in over 60% of the urban local bodies across India, which violates the principle of decentralization and somewhere constitutionalism. And elections are held on time, which are again sine qua non for democracy. And we have different committees also, like the Balwant Rai Mehta Committee of 1957, which proposed democratic decentralization, laying the groundwork. For local governance, we had the Ashok Mehta Committee 1978, which recommended strengthening of the urban local bodies as autonomous units. In terms of finance, also, we've been discussing about the overhaul which is needed in terms of make them more self-sufficient in terms of revenue. So there we talked about there should be more shift towards digitization and digital means of collecting taxes, and somewhere making the again the property tax also work. Apart from this, the state election commissions are responsible for conducting the elections at the local level, and empowering the state election commissions to carry out the ward delimitations is also to be seen only in very few regions. So this should be again made one of the priorities. Now, when we talk about effective implementation of schemes, here we have one of the reports regarding the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana in urban areas. So almost 50% of the houses that has been constructed, they still remain unoccupied. So will merely again building the houses, pakka houses, lead to multidimensional poverty elevation? Are we again relying on data analytics to identify what are going to be the right place for the construction and the proximity of these houses constructed to the livelihood? Again, whether they're in moderate climate regions or not, or are other basic amenities and services available at these places? And also, we often talk about government wants to achieve the saturation level in the centrally funded schemes. So, will again achieving the saturation target also serve the purpose in letter and spirit or not is the question. So, these areas again need more of debate and discussion. Now, Mahakumbh, again, it's a grand spiritual event in India and it occurs every 12 years at the confluence of sacred rivers, which includes Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. So, in terms of the role of administration, what are the important areas which again needs to be prioritized in terms of organization involves ensuring the safety of visitors, the crowd management, again using drones, emergency services availability, like again the ambulances and the police force, sustainable celebrations with waste management and construction of clean ghats and the clean practices, basic infrastructure like roads, shelters are being again constructed in this case too, and amenities like potable water and undisrupted electricity supply, and that too if we can get the electricity from renewable energy. So for the ease and the smooth operation, we see that Prayagraj is this region, particularly the area, has been declared temporarily as a district for again ensuring that it is done in a smooth way. We are not having again any major challenge in terms of that. So that's how we can say that steps are being taken up. Like different corridors are also being constructed, like Hanuman Mandir corridor dedicatedly. So India UAE comprehensive strategic partnership. in energy, in technology, people to people ties, or tourism or defense sector, it underscores the mutual growth, regional stability, and a shared vision for the global development, as also envisioned by India under the principle of Vasudev Kutumbakam. So recently, again, talk about the IMEEC corridor, the India Middle East Europe corridor. Again, that's going to be a historic initiative to foster regional connectivity and prosperity. It is going to, again, we can say, provide us more alternative trade routes, so making things more sustainable. And as we talk about de-risking the growth and the growth of particularly trade sector also. So in terms of West Asia, again, India always stands by long-term peace, stability, and security in the region. Now, this Act, 1991 Act, the places of worship, it is a part of the basic structure of the constitution, which was declared under this Babri Masjid case ruling. And it is talking about the religious character of place of worship. So it is going to, again, as per the current framework of what the act state is, that the religious character is going to stay the same as it was on 15th August 1947. Now, because of the oral observation or the oral remark made by the former CJI has created some kind of ambiguity in the implementation, or again the constitutional validity of this act is being questioned. So that is why recently the Supreme Court has firstly stopped taking up the petitions at the lower judicial level, and also not giving any kind of like the judgments also for the time being. So what are the other areas of challenge which are being, or other questions which are being raised regarding the relevance of this act? First is, it states that if we have this thing that religious character of a place is going to stay the same as far as the date is concerned, so it in a way it is taking away the power of judicial review also by abating the claims that existed at the time of passing the law. Second is how we have come to decide this particular date only. What are the basis of, what are the criterias behind deciding this? So these are other questions which, again, now the entire matter becomes sub judice, and let's see what the Supreme Court comes up with this on this issue. So we can see here these are different mosque temple disputes which are still ongoing, and regarding the same, petitions have been filed. Now, we were talking about, again, ultra processed food consumption, and particularly in case of US, also 50% of the adults are consuming ultra processed foods. So in this regard, we can say that what measures can be taken up, what strategies can be adopted or are being adopted in case of India. One is implement front of pack labeling instead of the behind that we currently have, which is again very small in size also, which is not clearly identifiable. Front of pack labeling to highlight high sugar, salt, and fat content should be again taken up by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. We can ban or limit the advertising also of the ultra processed foods, specifically which are targeting children at the same time, like this has been done in the Chile. Then taxation, the introduction of sin tax can be there on sugar sweetened beverages, as in case of Mexico also. So there we see that after the imposition of the tax, consumption is reduced by 12%. We can promote more healthy alternatives, like in case of India, we see like there are n number of healthy traditional Indian snacks which are available, which can be now promoted. And we talk about, again, certain can be like millet based foods and some roasted chanas, like these are certain small one or two examples. Then role of, again, horticulture sector is going to play important role, like availability of the fruits and the vegetables and minimally processed foods. Then school and workplace initiatives can be taken up, as seen in case of Kerala also, like they're taking initiative against the junk food in case of school canteens, and they're promoting balanced meals. In terms of public awareness, we have the Eat Right India campaign to educate the citizens about potential health risks after or like overconsumption of the ultra processed foods, and supporting the local food system. So that's related to this. And apart from this, regulation of the street food industry. So there also we have a scheme regarding their training. So promote more sustainable agriculture, at the same time local markets to reduce dependency on the industrial food production. Now, reviewing the performance of Paris Agreement, which was signed almost 9 years ago. Before Paris Agreement, we had the Kyoto Protocol of 1997, and this is again focusing upon the equity, the principles of equity and the differentiated responsibilities which were enshrined under the 1992 UNFCCC agreement. So from 12th December 2015, we have the Paris Agreement, and now we are seeing cases like the situation has not improved even after signing of this agreement. So we've seen increasingly it has turned out to be ineffective and helpless in terms of containing the rapidly worsening climate situation. There's always a possibility that the temperature might have already increased by 1.5 degrees Celsius. And definitely the recent COP29 that we saw in Baku and Azerbaijan also showcases that things are not improving also in terms of having a common agreement regarding the climate finance itself. So progressively it is weakening. So we need to again revisit the Paris Agreement itself. And in case of like climate finance, we see that the developing countries they need 1.3 trillion dollars every year, whereas the COP29 deal has only promised $300 billion. So going forward, also the burden or the need for finances is going to increase, and there's dwindling trust. So in case of again there was no promising results out of COP29 also. So the developing and the small island countries, particularly like here in case of Vanuatu, which is again at the northeast of Australia, they have now taken up this matter to ICJ. So one is this thing. Now again, it is the developing countries and the small island countries who are taking up the matter. The developed countries still are not coming forward as they should in terms of ensuring that the we are dealing or we deal with the challenge of climate change in a responsible, in a balanced manner. And also the concern related to the new Donald Trump regime, that he believes that climate change is merely a hoax. So that is going to create more disruptions going forward. And also climate change is, it shouldn't be seen merely in isolation, because it is also related with the human rights also. So what about the relevance of, again, we have a universal declaration of human rights. So ICJ needs to revisit that also, and even ICJ's judgment or recommendations are merely like they're advisory, not advisory in nature, not binding. So in a way we see that the intended objectives behind signing the Paris Agreement have not materialized so far. Now, three new criminal laws, and Chandigarh becomes the first union territory to implement them. So here we are talking about the the gender bias. Firstly, the gender neutrality element that should have been a priority. And here, what are the potential challenges in terms of the new criminal laws, how they can be misused through, again, gender bias or the potential misuse, and the implications on the modern relationships. Because here section 69 is being again at the center stage, which is again criminalizing the sexual intercourse by employing deceitful means, and cites the promise to marry a woman without any intention is grounds for the imprisonment. But it is not calling this crime as a rape. So that is the change, or that's how they are calling it to be a new type of crime. So one is this question. And given the data, when we see that, like, we have the NCRB data 2016 to 22 states that up to 40% of the rape cases allegations pertained to friends. Matlab, it is mostly the known person, the live-in partners, or again a separated husband. So that is why we are saying that it is again if it is on the basis of like promise to marry a woman or again from a husband, and even this brings into picture the issue related to marital rapes at the same time. And also it is somewhere missing out on that law is presuming that women cannot be in a position of power and induce a man into sex by false promises of job or promotion. So gender neutrality element is somewhere missing. And even like in terms of judiciary also, right now we see different views. For example, Supreme Court flagged a worrying trend of criminalizing the long-term consensual relationships after they turn sour. So misuse of the law, how we are going to ensure that going forward this law is also not being misused, like cases of consensual sexual relationship being later converted into allegations of rape. So this trend is seen to be increasing. And also, we are just talking about males and females. What about the rights and the inclusion of LGBTQ community? So because that remains omitted, so it is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause, their fundamental rights as promised under the Constitution of India. In case of CSR activities, we see that going by the data, CSR, the corporate social responsibility, is a mandatory part in India under the Companies Act, and we are the only country in the entire world where it is mandatory. So, going with the trends, like in case of PSUs, they account for 26% of the total CSR. And overall, if we're talking about the role of CSR activities, they're important in terms of fulfilling your moral obligation and the fundamental duties towards nation buildings. It also helps in fulfilling or bringing us more closer towards achieving the SDG goals. It showcases employing ethical governance and going beyond the call of duty, and also showcasing the bottom up growth model. So, in a way, it is truly reflecting the element of cooperative federalism in terms of growth and your responsibility, not just limited to the political aspects. So we have again different examples here. Like Vapkos is one player who is, like you can see, these are the multiple areas in terms of the CSR activities. Or we have ITDC, CSR Care and Impact Act in hospitality in terms of organizing cultural events or tourism, or like hotels, and then engineering and sound light shows are being organized as like cultural aspect. Then sustainable tourism is also one of the focus areas. Then we have Project Oil Rupantar, which revolutionized information technology, promoting computer literate workforce. So bottom up approach. We can take up the examples from here. And then here, important fact on the part of GAIL that it contributes 53% of the natural gas sold in India, 68% market share in natural gas transmission in India. So energizing possibilities, moving towards more of renewable energy. And like here, Engineers India Limited, their CSR activities again, we can see in the forms of healthcare nutrition, there is Sanjeevni or telemedicine in Prakriti, environment protection, women empowerment, skill development training, and education, drinking water. So that's how we can see even CSR activities is also one of the ways of reducing the income inequality also somewhere, because it is aiding in terms of enhancing the quality of life and reducing social inequalities.
And we can also say it is reinforcing the concept of corporate citizenship, that they must also act as the responsible members of the society, and the corporate goals should align with the society's well being. Other examples can be Tata Group and also Microsoft for their carbon negative goals and digital empowerment programs.
Okay. Now, Cabinet clears One Nation, One Poll bill, and it's a bill right now. So we had the Ramnath Kovind-led committee, which examined the feasibility of One Nation, One Election. So here we can talk about firstly the benefits and what can be the challenges if it is implemented. So benefits includes cost efficiency is we saw in the case of like 2019 Lok Sabha elections, the total cost was close to 60,000 crores. So we can again the simultaneous elections can help in reducing the expenditure elections on like logistics, security, and the administration, reducing policy paralysis because after the implementation or when the model code of conduct comes into force, new schemes and policies cannot be announced. Then we can expect more enhanced voter turnout also, because participating and then again in a single or consolidated election might improve the democratic engagement on the part of the people. And at again certain state levels also, we have seen that simultaneous elections in state like Andhra Pradesh, Odisha 2019 showed a higher voter turnout also. Then improved resource allocation in terms of manpower, particularly like security forces, and political stability. Challenges is again the number of constitutional amendments that would be needed in articles like 83, 85, 172, and several other articles. So it is making things a little more legally complex in terms of implementation. Then logistical complexity, because again, managing simultaneous elections for a billion plus voters is going to be a major, colossal task, we can say, impacting the federalism, because here it is stating that when it comes to the assent that would be required, so states assent would not be needed as far as passing of this bill and turning this into a law is concerned. And then what about the midterm dissolution of different state assemblies that would be needed to synchronize the elections? And also in terms of future aspect also, what if there is again, uh, for example, a state assembly dissolves before the completion of 5 year term? So how we are going to ensure that it remains synchronized also? Then the cost of transactions, initially we can say that in the short term it might turn out to be huge, and ensuring that entire exercise being done in ethical and practical concerns are taken into consideration. So we need again, initially we can conduct some pilot projects to synchronize the elections for few states. Then we can build the political consensus is needed amongst parties, and gradually we can address the logistical, legal, and the operational hurdles. So it is again has transformative potential, but again requires careful planning, because we need to preserve India's federal and democratic ethos going forward with this reform as well. Now, safeguard duty on steel industry under consideration. So, safeguard duty is to protect the domestic sector from cheaper imports. So, the importing country will be imposing the safeguard duty. Like if suppose a country is dumping any goods or commodities in India, so India can impose safeguard duty to again protect the domestic industries interest in terms of competitiveness. So in case of steel, 25% safeguard duty is being uh, proposed as of now to maintain the competitiveness, to not hurt the again our vision of atmanirbharta, because again we require certain kind of specialization to meet the intended objectives. So steel produced with the carbon emissions below 2.2 tons will be further rated for 5 star to 3 star. So we are focusing simultaneously upon green steel production also, so it remains a priority. So for that, safeguard duty can be imposed. So education is one of the pillars of India's Viksit Bharat mission, and that too, how we are like particularly talking about transforming the education sector through different ways and means. One is through the National Education New Education Policy 2020. So in this regard, we can say the firstly the Panch Pran which are there. So develop India, erase all traces of servitude, be proud of our legacy, the strength of our unity, citizen duty, which may provide ideals for evolving India with its spiritual and cultural foundation. So these are Panch Prans. And in terms of the reforms, so the reforms in education sector focusing upon flexibility, innovation, and being multidisciplinary. So the role of NCRT UGC is important, and we are introducing different skill based courses also, which are promoting more of vocational skills, creativity, morality, innovation, career aspiration. So that flexibility element, vocational education, is being majorly emphasized. And then we talk about the promotion of STEM. So not just STEM, we are promoting STEAM sector. So science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So again, this Western culture of certain, we can say, the conflict between science versus the social science is also being seem to be breaking down. And then the notion of Viksit Bharat is not just limited to the Western notion of development, or it is Viksit Bharat is not just being a developed country in terms of the GDP growth that we aim for, or the per capita income that we talk about. It is about the quality of life. It is about, again, reducing the regional inequalities in growth. It is about the adequate healthcare or universal healthcare services availability of the basic amenities, that like we talk about potable water, or like clean drinking water. We talk about hygiene, or if we talk about, again, disaster management also. So everything is in a way a prerequisite for Viksit Bharat. So as we state also that there is interdependence amongst different areas, like a famous quote from E.P. Thompson states, it's true that without economics, there is no history. So there is, again, we can say, economic history also. And but it is also true that without culture, there is no economics at the same time. So that's how we can talk about the role of education and modernization. Now, tax rate rationalization. In this, we see that this is regarding the GST rationalization of the tax rate. Now, here, this concept is in line, or it is in sync with the Laffer curve approach, which states that if we are again at firstly, so if we are able to identify what is the peak level of tax rate for a particular economy, and it states if we reduce the tax rate from that highest possible tax rate which can be imposed, there's a possibility that tax revenue can increase by reducing the tax rate. So on similar lines, in case of India, there is a potential of 25,000 crore rupees of additional annual revenue which can be generated from rate rationalization. So also we can say that this measure or this reform would also help in making GST more progressive. Unlike the traditional understanding that the indirect taxes are regressive in nature, GST is an indirect tax, but rate rationalization can make it more progressive. That's what we can say, and it can simplify the system. It will make it more certain and ensure more of compliance towards it. The 16th Finance Commission, its tenure is from 2026 to 31, would be chaired by Arvind Pangaria sir. So here we see that it is talking about what areas needs to be emphasized going forward with its terms of reference and the recommendations. So definitely Finance Commission under Article 280 of the Constitution, it promotes cooperative fiscal federalism system. So earlier, the 15th Finance Commission proposed 41% of the tax devolution from the central divisible pool. So, one part of, again, recommendation is should it be increased to 50% or not is the question. Secondly, whether we should include, again, cess or surcharge under the central divisible pool, because that is not a part of the fiscal devolution to the states and the local bodies. And here, like, two categories of states are being talked about, type 1 and type 2. So type 1 states are the ones which specialize in production of tradable goods. Type 2 would specialize in non-tradable items. So how to ensure that it is uplifting the growth also, it is aiding in economic growth, it is addressing the fiscal imbalance challenge at the same time, it is not hurting the growth trajectory of better performing states, and also it is holding the hands of the laggard states. Like earlier we had the category of Bimaru states. So that's the thing. And Apart from this, some areas of concern is also like the development and the welfare of the people of the state concerned, that needs to be one central point. Then fiscal health of the state governments, fiscal health and development of other states, and the fiscal health of the union also, because we talk about the overall goal of fiscal consolidation through the FRBM Act, reducing a fiscal deficit target. So that also needs to be kept in mind. So CE-20 cryogenic engine of ISRO passes critical test. So cryogenic engines, these are advanced rocket propulsion systems and they use supercooled fuels. So that is why the term cryogenic. And they typically use like liquid hydrogen fuel or liquid oxygen as an oxidizer. And the extremely low temperatures at which it is operating is minus 253 degrees Celsius. So as to ensure that again hydrogen and oxygen they remain liquid at these cryogenic temperatures. So they are, in a way, they provide more of thrust to the rocket or the heavy payloads which are to be launched. So why are these engine important? Because of their high efficiency and the thrust, because of the heavy payloads which can be launched through them, and it would be leading to more indigenous space capabilities like we have successfully developed the cryogenic engines like CE 7.5, CE 20, which are used in the GSLV Mark 3 and Mark 2. So it will reduce dependency on the foreign technology and promote self-reliance under Make in India, and further enable advanced missions future. Like even it can be used in Gaganyaan mission and further satellite deployments going forward. So cryogenic technology represents nation's capability to master the cutting edge propulsion, bolstering the space leadership globally and help us in increasing India's space the contribution to the world, which is right now just 2%. So that's all for the day. Thank you so much for joining us on Ansarkari. Stay tuned for further detailed sessions.